Hi, in this video we're going to look at making a drum and bass drum kit using just Serum. So I've got a little demo I've put together with a couple of extra loops, and then we'll go through how it was done. So the Serum parts on their own sound like this. So let's go through how they were done from the ground up. So I'll start off with the kick drum. Turn off the effects for now. So I've started off with the noise oscillator, and it comes with these attack kicks by default. I've got a really tight volume envelope here, and there's an envelope here on the noise level which just does a little bit of a fade in. And then on top of that I've got this analog BD sign, and there is this envelope here. It's an LFO, but it's in envelope mode, which is controlling the wavetable position. And there's also this envelope here which is controlling the pitch to make it drop down in pitch like a kick drum. So that combined with the noise oscillator. And the next thing, I've got a filter which is just being applied to the first oscillator, which is the MG Low 12, which is sort of like a Moog emulation. A bit of drive on there, and there is a envelope somewhere, this one here. And next we've got some distortion. I've got some tube, and I've got the filter on the post section, and that is also being controlled by this envelope here. Then next I've got an EQ, which is taking out some of the very high end. And a compressor, which is just shaping the dynamics of the sound a bit. Okay, so next I started off with an EQ, and I've just taken out some of the very, very low ends and some of the mids. For drum and bass, you really want sort of short, punchy kick drums. If you have too much tail, it'll interfere with the sub bass and the track. Just to tighten up a little bit. And then I've got Isotope Alloy 2, which is an old plugin. This got replaced by Neutron, but I still use the old one quite a bit, and Neutron uses up quite a lot of CPU. So all I've got here is a multi-band transient designer, basically. So in the lows below 248 Hz, I'm just pulling down some of the sustain, taking out some of the subby tail out the kick drum. And then in the mids, I'm boosting the attack and also pulling out a little bit of sustain. And then the very high end, I'm actually pulling back the attack a little bit just to take out some of the clickiness. I find it better in multi-band mode, because if you use like a wide band transient designer to do this, you end up with this sort of clicky, plasticky top end sometimes. That adds some definition to the sound. And then next I've got a crazy EQ. So what I did was I got a kick drum that I really liked, and then just tried to copy the spectrum a little bit using Pro Q2. So there's quite a few bands here just carving out some frequencies, but it makes quite a bit of difference. This is our final kick drum, peaking around sort of 130 hertz. Hasn't got too much low end, so it's kind of easy to work with in a drum and bass track. And then next we've got the snare drum. So we've got a rim snare thing loaded out of the noise section. And then I've got an oscillator, which just adds a little bit of tail. And what I've done in here is just drawn in a load of random stuff. It's almost like a metallic sort of noise. And there's this envelope here, which is just controlling the level of that, so it fades in a little bit as the tail of a snare drum. That noise comes in just after the attack. So that combined with the sort of transient coming from the noise. And then I've got a high pass filter. And then there's some quite drastic EQ. That's just bringing out the sort of fundamental. Some distortion. And a compressor. Then next I've used Drum Enhancer, which is almost like a convolution type effect. So what you can do is you can load in a sample into here, and I've got it high passed a bit, and it will add the character of that sample to the decay of whatever sound it's been applied to. That gives it this sort of reverby tail, and then I've got an EQ just doing a low cut on that. And then I've duplicated that, and there's a variation of it here for the ghost snare, which is just a rim shot basically. It's got the same effects. I haven't used the drum enhancer on this though, because I didn't really want the tail, I just wanted the attack. And then I've got just a simple hi-hat, again loaded out the noise section with a high pass filter on. And I used a low pass filter just to smooth out the top end. And I don't think there's any processing on that. No, that was it. And then finally there's this shaker, which is this cymbal loop, which sounds nothing like a shaker by default. So I've taken that and applied this LFO to it, which does some syncopation. And then I've used the bandpass filter. Originally I high passed it, but there was these really harsh frequencies right up in the top. So with the bandpass I could take out some of the very, very high frequencies, but control them a little bit and get rid of any mess down here. And there's a little bit of distortion. And there's no effects on the channel. So all of that together sounds like this. And then I've applied a camel fat just to add some saturation. Flux Bittersweet version 3, which is just pulling out some of the transient in the stereo image. And I've got a glue compressor and just doing some parallel compression. I'll show you that. So I've got the attack and release all the way down, so it's just really crunching up and adding some dirt to the drums. Quite a lot of makeup gain to compensate to bring it back up to level, and then you can just mix that in just to add some more energy and grit to the drums. So it's kind of basic. I don't normally use Serum for drums, but it shows some ideas of how you can be creative. If I bypass the effects as well and show you how much of a difference it makes. So don't be afraid to experiment with stuff, especially using aggressive EQ and really going overboard with effects, and just see what happens.